Hello to everybody, and thank you for inviting us to talk in the Spotlight Germany webinar. My name is Linda von der Laas-Günther. I'm the Managing Director of the international consulting company AHP International. And we have been consultant for German-speaking European countries in the TAS project since almost 2 years. And this is why we are really happy to have the opportunity to present you our market.
Good day, my name is Franziska Wegerich. I'm a senior manager and consultant at AHP International for almost 7 years now, and look forward to deliver this webinar today and also work with all of you in the future, hopefully.
Yeah, who is AHP International? We are a consulting company. We are on the market since more than 3 decades, and since then we have been helping and assisting specifically small and medium-sized enterprises in their internationalization processes. We have helped small and medium-sized companies to internationalize, to find new opportunities, to find markets worldwide. Yeah, let's come now to the market overview, the megatrends and the COVID-19 impact on Germany. Germany is, as you might know already, Europe's strongest economy and one of the strongest economies worldwide. We are one of the export champions worldwide and the political leader of the European Union. The interesting thing about Germany is that we have about 3.5 million companies, and out of those companies, the majority, so 99.5, are small and medium-sized companies. And we have a lot of hidden champions Germany-wide. Germany is decentralized. We will talk about this later on. Hidden champion means companies that are market leaders in different segments, but are not known because they are not producing the end product. They are producing components or subcontracting products, right? And they are really excellent and have a world-leading position. And they are all over Germany. Positive trade balance, which is really one core factor for the German economy, it has still been maintained during the Corona crisis, even if it has decreased, both imports and exports. You see exports in the blue line and imports in the red line, and the saldo below them, but it is still has been maintained. And this is really something that is really important to know, that global opportunities continue to be essential for Germany. In June 2020, there had been issued a big stimulus package for 2 years of 130 billion euro in Germany. And it is interesting to note that 50% of this has been spent for general purposes, of course, of stabilizing the economy, ensuring employment and stability, and support investments. But a big part also has been spent to modernize the country and the economy. One is transition to e-mobility, so everything centering around environment, and the other one is digitalization of the country. And of course, some money has also been spent to better be protected against future pandemics, and was spent in education and research and development. Let's come to the megatrends: healthcare, stimulus and reshoring, digitalization and environment.
So, of course, when looking at those megatrends that Linda just mentioned and explained, we can also see that the new government that was just elected last year, and of course now formed our new government, which is also headed by the Green Party, we can really see that sustainability and climate action, referring to the megatrend environment, and of course environmental friendly technologies and products, and in general concepts. Of course, digitalization now, and digitalization in all different aspects of the daily life, so not only on public services, but also in education, healthcare, and overall in the whole economy, is very much pushed now with the new government. Infrastructure and mobility, also referring, of course, to the environment, but at the same time looking at cities being very much crowded and few people live in rural and remote areas. there are new infrastructure and mobility concepts. Construction is also something forced a lot by the new government in terms of not only building more sustainable buildings, but also in terms of building multi-purpose buildings, which was of course a megatrend, but also became a push due to the whole COVID pandemic. The energy supply was definitely, with the Green Deal, always a big topic in the last government, but of course with the new government and the new chancellor, as well as the new Minister for Economics and Climate Action, energy supply and renewable energies is a huge topic. So this will reflect in different opportunities and market sectors, as mentioned here on the right side of the slide. But maybe let's have a look at the next slides, because we wanted to also show selected key trends in certain industries, but also to highlight again that there are megatrends that were already there, but then of course the COVID pandemic gave a big push to this megatrend in addition to the ongoing process. So looking at healthcare and medical technology, of course, it was a trend before because of, as Linda mentioned, an elderly society and more chronic diseases. But nevertheless, there are different key trends, of course, in the healthcare and medical technologies industries. Looking at, for example, hygiene and disinfectant concepts for hospitals, for the point of care, but of course also for the educational sector and the industry and companies in general. The demand for personal protective equipment and disinfection solutions, as well as respiratory care, is also still existing. Looking at the sector for ICT and in general IT and digitalization solutions, this has been a megatrend, but of course, due to several lockdowns in Germany and in the whole Europe in the past 2 years, this was also something that was highly pushed again by the COVID pandemic. Looking at the mechanical engineering industry, of course, the megatrend of restructuring value and supply chains was always there, but at the same time, the COVID pandemic also pushed towards a reshoring and, of course, re-Europeanization on the supply chain in order to be not so dependent on supplies from Asia, for example. But in general, the term Industry 4.0 or Industry of Things, Internet of Things, smart technologies and smart manufacturing for robots, cooperative robots named cobots, or any kind of AI technology was always there. But of course, in some markets and regions, there are different and own supply chains that are really increasingly built up in order to be no longer so dependent on imports or imports from faraway markets, which of course opens doors for companies such as from Northern Ireland to really enter the German market from Europe. Of course, due to the lockdowns and everything, the retail and e-commerce was highly digitized in the whole pandemic. But of course, this trend for a higher availability and more self-checkout technology was already there. Sustainable packaging solutions and also packaging machinery, therefore, is also very important as a key trend. As I mentioned before, mobility was always a big topic in the whole country, but now, of course, with electromobility and hydrogen and any kind of alternative drive technology and battery cells, it's definitely a key trend that we see arising, and also for the maritime and in general transport, logistics and infrastructure to really have the supply chains more stable and not as much disrupted as we all saw it in the last 2 years. Looking at, of course, the agricultural sector, agriculture 4.0, also referring to this industry 4.0, automation and digitalization in the process is very important for an improvement of productivity. And of course, again, the optimization of supply chains. But at the same time, we also see a lot of biotechnology and life science for innovative crops and seeds, also due to the fact of climate change and the new government also, of course, forcing more and more sustainable crops and seeds at the same time that also comply with our changing weather. Of course, aerospace and MRO faced a huge push from the COVID pandemic as well, not only for, of course, hygienic treatments for aerospace, but also in terms of materials, lightweight materials, and in general, more sustainable technology. Logistics, I mentioned before as well, and of course, international freight from and to Europe, because this whole supply chain and value chain topic was there. Renewable energies is, of course, more actual nowadays, as we see our energy supply will be or might be disrupted, but in general, it's really also renewable energies within not only the residential use, but also the commercial use in the industries, looking at the European Green Deal. Well, what does that mean for market and business development for the German market or entering the German market? Well, yeah, Germany's global footprint. Let's look at this slide. I mean, Germany is more than ever dependent on exports and global opportunities. As mentioned before also by Linda, there is this trade surplus, but of course, Germany is more than ever dependent on global business, on global supplies, but also on then the own exports. The fundamentals of doing business with Germany and the German business culture that we will touch on in a minute will still remain valid and are still in place. But, and this is very important to mention here, it's more competitive than ever, and there is really this outreach, and some contacts remain harder to reach because there are less working hours, more strategic obligations, and of course also a lot of internal and strategic discussions to be made on value chains and supply chains. Face-to-face meetings, however, are of course still essential for building trust and cooperating in a more complex environment, and of course more strategic cooperation. Because of course Germans are still extremely risk averse. But yeah, what does that mean? Having first meetings and presenting your company works well virtually. We all saw that in the last 2 years. And developing corporations and joint projects work also well online. Sharing letters of intent, for example, signing NDAs or pre-contacts or trial orders is still possible even without meeting a person face-to-face. However, to really close a deal and to really start a strategic cooperation and a long-term business, the personal meeting is still essential. But, well, we see German companies are really open for win-win proposals and these strategic long-term cooperations despite the pandemic.
Franziska, I think this is the slide you would show. If you would have one slide on the German market, this would be the one, right, to show with the most important.
Definitely. And it's actually my favorite slide because the main important message on this slide is really the regional diversification in Germany, because there is really no center. Looking at France, for example, which is quite centered around Paris and maybe some industry in Lyon, but in Germany it's the opposite. There are different sectors in different regions and different federal states. Of course, you can see the strong federal states, but at the same time, it's really, there is no center. The main important point here is looking also at the cluster map on the lower left side, looking at where is your industry and your market segment represented and located in Germany. For example, the German automotive OEM and supplier industry is quite dense in the west and southwest, for example, and of course Bavaria. But the golden rule here really is to know the landscape of your sector. But of course, that's also what we are helping in when supporting our clients entering the market. But looking at the next success factor, I think it's the people, and the German people are quite, yeah, maybe different to other European business cultures.
If you look on one or two slides at the Germans, you have to know that if I should sum up the German business mentality, Germans are security driven, they are quality driven, they are number driven, comparison driven. To give the German a sense of security and reliability before then you come to pitching your product, you have to show him or her the quality, the technology, and the experience. And to show the reliability, of course, the tradition, the team, the international success, and things like this. So Germans very much want to know about, do you have quality certifications? Do you have international business relations? Who is your business partner? You know, how traditional your company is, how experienced your team is.
So this was it for today, and we thank you for your attention, and we look forward to any questions in the Q&A session.